welcome. We will discuss the value of engaged fan communities. And I'm here with 4 guys who are quite experienced in this specific job field. Cam, welcome.
Thanks.
You're from London, right?
Yes.
Do you live in Amsterdam?
Yeah, I live in Amsterdam, yeah.
Okay.
I moved here a year ago. So.
Sorry?
I moved here a year ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you understand some Dutch?
I'm Beesje.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But we'll do the talk in English, so
okay, perfect.
You're perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and what kind of company you have?
Yeah, it's quite freeform at the moment. I offer marketing consultancy to various businesses. I worked for 5 years for a major record label.
EMI, right?
EMI, yes. And now I'm working with Atlantic Records on some global artists with them. I'm working with Universal on a couple of retainers, and then also working with TicketSwap on some branded activations around ADE and also some influencer marketing activations. So yeah, there's a bit going on. I also have an artist. I manage an artist. He's also playing at ADE. So there's like just a lot going on in my world, but it's all interesting. He's called Jeffrey Heston. So he's playing at a label showcase tonight. Soho House, and then he's kind of like a recording artist in the UK, so we're just sort of building him into a live performing artist. So
cool. Well, he's the best place.
Yeah, it's good. He's met some good people already, so it's exciting.
Okay, welcome.
Thanks.
Damian.
Yes.
I would like to congratulate you with your new position.
Thank you very much.
Because you're working at Fangage.
That's correct.
But you also have a new job as the new CEO, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Where did you start at Fangage?
Started 1.5 years ago. I joined when Sam Veld, the founder of the company, and Nick Velden invited me over to help grow the company because they raised 2 million euro, and they needed to start building that company. So they asked me to help, and I said yes because it was a great product and great vision. So
you moved on up really quick, right? Within a year and a half.
It is a small company, but yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about what kind of company it is?
Yeah, sure. So Sam, when he founded it, when he always explains it also to me, is like he could never reach his fans on Instagram and other social media channels. So he had a lot of followers, but he couldn't reach them directly. Yeah. So he started making this platform. And with this platform, it is made for creators to make them independent, to reach their fans more directly, to engage with them. So I was really sold for that. I come from the hospitality business. I think it's really important to have a good interaction with your guests. Yeah. So when working at Paylogic, I always was also talking about the fan and the fan experience of buying a ticket. So this was the right step in that whole like career path to say like, okay, this is something great I want to invest time in because I have experience and I like the vision and the passion that Sam and Nick had and have still in the company.
Yeah, and with Fangage, it's a platform for artists and creators to take back the control of interacting with the fans without, for instance, the risk of your Instagram profile being deleted or being hacked, right?
Exactly, and it's really built to have that direct connection with the fan. Creator and fan, bring them together and not be a blocker. Don't put up any paywalls, don't put any walls at all actually to interact directly with them. The data is also, the creator is owner of the data. That's a really important thing for us. They own the data and they have direct contact. We don't use that data to spam them with other information or marketing.
Okay, thank you. Mauricio, welcome all the way from Brazil, right?
Yes.
You work at MS Live and also you have the event space, ARCA.
Exactly, yeah.
Is it pronounced as ARCA?
ARCA, yeah.
And you're the head of event production company, right?
Yes. We have on one side MS Live, which is the event production and promotion company, and on the other side ARCA, the event venue. So they work basically like software and hardware, in a really symbiotic way.
Do you do all events also at ARCA?
Yes.
Exclusively or?
Most of the MS Live events happen at ARCA, but it's not only MS Live events there. So we have ARCA as a platform for the whole creative industry, and MS Live doing the electronic music shows there.
Cool. Is this your first time at ADE in the Netherlands?
Now my 6th.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. Tim, we already know each other for quite a while. You are the co-founder and CEO of GoSpooky.
Correct.
Of course, everybody always talks about you creating this company at 13 years old.
I was 16, but I'm in the business since I was since I
Maybe
was
you were
13.
already thinking about it at the age of 13.
I worked 5 years in the music industry business. So I worked at Spinning Records for 5 years and did all their like new social platforms. When like EDM worldwide was like booming. So that was like my first where I really saw, hey, you can really build a business on these platforms. And until basically it got sold to Warner, and then while I was still spinning, I started GoSpooky, and then I started doing that.
What made you decide to start GoSpooky?
Mainly because I saw like the music industry in general. I think it's an industry that gets disrupted a lot of times, and I think one of the most innovative industries. So I think music industries, I think 4 or 5 years ahead of other industries. So I started looking around. I didn't see any Fortune 500 brand doing anything with Snap, Instagram, Twitch. We also did like all the Chinese platforms. So a lot of unused potential, and that was basically the thing. Like, hey, maybe we should tell them how to do it. And that's basically how we started advising companies. Didn't sell anything the first 6 months.
No.
Then we thought like, hey, maybe we should also make the campaigns, and then it started growing. Basically, start growing from there.
Yeah, because GoSpooky does the social campaigns for like big brands, right?
Yeah, we always say we keep leading brands at the forefront of these social platforms, and we do that for brands like Amazon, Dior, Snapchat. Have partnerships with all the major platforms.
Yeah.
So we also work with TicketSwap. So that's that's what we do basically.
Yeah, one of the funny things is that you actually helped companies create on Snapchat, and now Snapchat is one of your clients, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
quite full
we
circle.
started out as like Snapchat only because we
Yeah.
thought that it was a nice way in, and we thought like, hey, that's the future of how people want to use these platforms, the social in general. And now Snapchat, we're like one of their top 3 global partners. So that's very exciting, and
cool.
it's super nice.
Okay, thank you for your introduction, guys. Cam, can you tell us a little bit more about your experience with building fan communities? Is that something that you worked on before, for instance, EMI, who is also now one of your clients, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's like the day in, day out working with artists. You know, an artist's music is only heard by an audience, right? So like the big task of signing, well, I think what they think they're signing to a label for is people who have that expertise. And it's interesting working in labels, and you realize there are really good people who do understand that, but it's like, even I think to what Tim said about music being the forefront of innovation, it's always changing. Even in the 5 years that I started working there, you know, it would be that you would get a song on the radio, and then they would see Shazam data, and that would kind of be the way that, you know, the way in for an artist to get the reputation amongst sort of like the gatekeepers, you know, like press used to be a really important thing. There's so many artists, if you can't break yourself on TikTok nowadays, it's going to be really difficult. And it's like, you know, labels can facilitate that. And I think a lot of the time, I think a really exciting way with young artists is just testing and learning and using different platforms and just encouraging them to find their voice and their audience. And once you find that, and something works out of testing over a certain amount of time, then you just keep doing it, you know. And it's like, I think that's a day in, day out kind of experience working in music. And then I mean, obviously you're always trying to innovate for artists who already have established fan bases, you know, who are trying to still be relevant 20 years into their campaigns. So I have that with Chase and Status. They're 20 years into music in the UK and globally, and it's like, trying to find 18-year-olds now as their audience base is kind of like a daily task, but to still do it credible for, you know, guys who are slightly older and their lives have moved in different ways,
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
And do you think that traditional media such as radio is still important for artists as well to get their music played? Or
Definitely, it really is. It's like, obviously, if you can create online moments to encourage them to support, I think that is really important. But I think radio stations can see through sort of flash in the pan songs, like, I don't think that necessarily supports it. Some records may have no digital footprint, but it gets on the radio and it does react. There are certain records that have that, but I think every record's different. There are certain trajectories that you can look at, but I still think it still has a form. Do I think print press and press in general does? I don't know. It's difficult to necessarily say. I think if the look is right with the right digital space, then it can be really interesting. But I wouldn't say, if I was a young artist, I wouldn't be investing in a press campaign. I'd be investing in other spaces.
Such as putting your music on TikTok? Or
TikTok, or Snap is interesting. Discord, if you're going to be building an audience-based YouTube, but like not shooting a full-blown music video, I think music videos are also potentially a dying art form in music to a degree, unless you're a massive artist. It's I think being nimble on less, but also thinking digitally is obviously like the way that any artist should be trying to do their job now.
Is Discord and Twitch, is that something that is quite similar, or can you? Because you're talking about Discord, and I know like there are performances on Twitch or Discord. I don't know. I'm not a gamer of any kind, so.
Not the same, right? I think that Discord is more like a community-oriented platform, while Twitch is more also community, but more like broadcasting content, right? And a lot of live content.
Such as games or videos?
Yes. So I think they are complementary.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I think Tim, did you want to say something?
No, I think, I agree with Discord. I think it's been a lot of Twitch users use Discord, and a lot of I wouldn't say that Twitch isn't about community, because I think that's one of the core platforms where you really see like streamers with 10,000 subscribers like make a better living than, for example, an Instagram influencer with 1 million or 10 million followers. So I think the people on Discord, especially on Twitch, are much more engaged and much more dedicated towards, for example, 1 or 2 streamers, like really fans. While you don't see that, for example, on Instagram or on TikTok or on these more like fast platforms. But you see a lot of Twitch streamers having Discord communities, and the interesting thing about Discord, I think, is that the value on Twitch, what you see, for example, on Discord, the value is not in like it's more in the creator facilitating that space for their fans. I think that's the most interesting about communities in general. It's like when you can create these positive network effects where like the value is in the community and not necessarily around the content of the artist or the content of the brand. I think that's where when you have a real community, when people like come together based on a certain interest, whether it's an artist or somebody else, and I think that's really the power of Discord. That's what you not see on a lot of platforms.
But can you give me an example of how a big brand such as Coca-Cola can reach the community through something like Discord?
It's first starts with what community. So I think that's a struggle with a lot of brands, that we get so much briefs, and I think the advertising, the brands are the only ones who are doing this. Like we get briefs like, we want to reach Gen Z. Like
they all want to reach Gen Z.
If I would say go to Hollywood or would go to a record label or something else, I would say I want to make a movie that's for people between 20 and 30 years old. What are you going to make? So I think it's first like how to define the audience, how they define themselves. Really, it's mostly about interest. So for brands like Coca-Cola, I don't believe they're maybe you have some super fans of Coca-Cola, but in general, I don't think anyone really likes to join the Coca-Cola community. So for Coca-Cola, it's more like, hey, what are the values of our brand, and what industries or what communities does that fit with? Could be music. They do a lot with just did something with Marshmallow, I think. gaming, etc. And then you dive deeper into those communities and try to add value. I think that's really the way in for them. So I would say that if Coca-Cola would open a Discord community, it would be a great success. They would rather, I think, join or add something to an existing community there.
And I also think that a lot of brands use community as a cooler term to refer to audience.
Yeah.
While at least to me, they are two different things. You know, audience, the dynamics is like one to many, while community is like peer to peer, many to many.
Yeah, but community also sounds more intimate, more personal, right?
It depends. It starts really personal, but it can grow to a very big community.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Damian, what do you think that drives a fan to actually enter and want to participate in a community?
Be part of and direct connection with that creator, and also exchange that experience with other ones. I remember my first Chesto show. I think it was in the Gelderdome. It was quite a while ago.
As a visitor.
As a visitor, and you are on. He's on stage, not I'm on stage. He's on stage. I'm looking at him, and I enjoy. But I also am with the crowd together, and we experience at the same vibe. Literally, we were dancing, and I saw the whole crowd going up and down. For the first time, I saw like a wave in a crowd, and I was like, "This is cool. I want to be part of that wave, not only here but afterwards." So it's like that engagement that you want, and that community feeling that gives you that experience over and over again. So I think that's important. And what I just heard from Cam with growing your fan base was interesting. Like, what is, or like building your fan base, like what is it exactly? Is it growing? Is it like eyeballs indeed and collecting more, growing that community? Or is it also strengthening that community? So making sure that those fans, that you can give something exclusive back, or that they give something to you, not only data but also their time, maybe even invest money in buying records or doing things. So you also want to give something back. So we just talked about a performance a moment ago. Help me with who.
Yeah, it was a Chase and Status album campaign.
And this was a specific performance for loyal fans.
Yeah. It was really cool. It was a creative execution, which was basically it was their 6th studio album, so it's like they've been doing music for a long time, and we just thought, what does that whole period of time, what's that epitomized by? And actually it was the fans. They were like, they distilled it down to like, people have supported us for 20 years, so how do we encapsulate that in a singular moment? We're working with a really great creative team called Crowns and Owls. They've done, I don't know if you know the artist Slow Tie. He's like, yeah. So they did all of the iconic kind of Slow Tie photography, and I reached out to them and explained this brief, and they came up with this really ambitious idea. Actually, we partnered with O2 in the UK to do it, and it was basically, we shot a 1,000-person rave, and that is the album cover. So fans knew they were coming to be encapsulated on the album cover. And that as a journey for audience was really interesting. You've got that singular moment. We took phones, like I was explaining, that people had their phones in their pockets. So, whilst we wanted to reach people digitally, we also knew that taking digital things away was really important for this moment. And it was funny, even on the night, seeing fans interact in ways and overhearing conversations of how, and in the forums and on Twitter, and they have a WhatsApp group as well, like people just talking about the night and how they've met several people and et cetera. But that was a really good journey for an audience, because it was like, they were encapsulated on the artwork, so they then had an invested interest in purchasing that as from a pure marketing sense. The user journey to reward them for not only coming on that night, but then they get to keep this sort of magical piece of artwork that will see them on their favorite artist's album cover. It was like a really nice user journey, and we started to then reach out to those people during the campaign, and they were rewarded in other ways. We started a Discord. They get sent exclusive content, and it's it's like that was a nice flow. So the strengthening idea there, how do we bind these people together who are all fans of the same artist? That was a singular moment that we and did that. But I think that's not always the easiest to achieve. It's quite.
That's the answer on the community part. Like, why would you be part of a community? Because of this, because of these kind of moments in which you create from fans to real ambassadors. What we talked about, putting them on the album cover. Well, that's amazing. I would be on the album cover of Chesto.
Well, Chesto, if you're listening,
No, it's well bad.
Damian is available. Mauricio, do you notice any differences between the way fans interact with their artists within the different kind of communities? Like, for instance, do you only do dance events, or do you also do like pop events?
We're doing a pop event now in November 19th. It will be the first. So I don't think that I'm capable of speaking about the differences yet. But concerning the electronic music fans, yeah, depending on the subgenre, you see some differences. Like when we did Tomorrowland Brazil back in 2015 and 16, that community was really wild. You know, we at first it started, to be honest, in 2012 when someone created like a Tomorrowland Brazil page on Facebook, and overnight it had like 200,000 people in there. And it was the first time that we looked and said, well, something here, we should look into it. And we discovered a lot of unofficial ambassadors throughout Brazil.
Yeah.
And instead of trying to control everything and do everything top down, we got close to them and listened to them a lot to hear about, you know, what were people's expectations, desires, etc. And then in return, we empowered them with like exclusive information or first-hand information, content to distribute among their peers, and that worked really well because the brand came to Brazil in a very authentic way.
Yeah. I really recognize what you're saying because I've worked at Barong Family as a label manager like 10 years ago, so it's way back. That of course is the label of Yellow Claw, the dance act, and they had some self-proclaimed ambassadors as well, and they made sure that they gave the ambassadors merchandise, so the newest jackets. They would talk to the ambassadors after the performances, and that way they become key persons for the community to reach out to if they wanted to go to an event and really hook up with each other, because I think the dance industry has one of the most loyal communities in the music industry. How do you say it? At all, or
yeah, just in general, yeah.
In general, yeah. That was what I was looking for. Thank you. Do you have, or is it possible on Fangage to also have like a specific place for like artist ambassadors, or how does that work?
Actually, every fan that you bring to your own platform, every fan that Sam brings to Fangage are loyal fans. They engage. You can see that also in the back end. You can see that they respond, that they open email campaigns, and that's really powerful also for brands, because brands they can go directly into the communities or build their own communities, like we just heard. But it's also interesting for Sam now saying to like, okay, I have this very loyal fan base. These are my super fans.
Yeah. So they're all ambassadors.
Yeah, they're all ambassadors, and he's putting in the driver's seat, talking to brands also like, hey, I like your brand. I want to introduce you to my loyal fans, and I'll do that in my way, on my terms. And also the financial terms are in that case better. Yeah. So, and I think for brands it's really interesting because it reaches them very well. So it's almost like very targeted, and they can see the impact of it. So with maybe a campaign on a social media or an influencer, you don't know exactly what you reach. The algorithm decides, and it's a bit. I don't know how you say that in English. Now you have to help me. Shooting with hail, maybe that's schieten met hagel.
Schieten met hagel.
You try a very big audience to reach, and you just hope that somebody catches. And of course that works. It also grows your reach. But going really like specifically to somebody and knowing that person is interested to read it because it comes from somebody that you like, it's way more powerful.
Can you give me an example for how a brand can work with an artist on Fangage? Is it like can they do like a photo campaign or a video campaign?
Yeah, mostly it's offering something. So the creator offers something on behalf of the brand. So yeah, that could be anything. I don't know if I can speak about it right now, but okay, let's do it. But Sam Veld is looking at a brand deal right now for, in this case, ear protection. Well, if it comes from your DJ, I think it's also you quicker buy something like that. So he's going to use his fan base to promote this.
So, and because the connection between the artist and the fans is more close at Fangage.
Yeah, more authentic.
The conversion will probably be higher than if you do a promotion campaign on Instagram, for instance. Tim, how important is emotional connection when it comes to communities?
In relation to the
artist.
To the artist, yeah, it's the core of everything. So it's like it's in the right, your emotion, your interest in the first place, and the passion for something. I think is the first place that you're in that community, and afterwards, I think it's about. I think it's evoking that emotion, but also the best communities, they mostly give back to the community. It's not.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, is it also in sharing like more personal stories?
Yeah, it could be. I think it's fully dependent on. I think from an artist, we always think. I think from an artist perspective, I think an artist really has two profiles. So their professional profile in the terms of their music, but also their personal profile. And I think some of the best artists out there, they have both. So I think, of course, you have your music and you have your art, and that's I think that's what brings people in, that really reflects on an emotional level as well. But I think on what Damian was saying, like, hey, if you have an artist that also is very rich on the personal side, so having a sense, for example, having a passion for food or for fashion or for other things, that opens so much more opportunities, not only in like connecting with other communities. For example, it's not an artist, but I think a great example is, for example, Lewis Hamilton on the Formula One grid. He touches like so many different interests and passions, which makes him like a much, I think, rounder driver, maybe also better for like brand deals, etc. than
because
Max Verstappen would be.
Yeah, he's also like big into fashion, and he's also very outspoken about like racism.
Yeah, he has a lot of layers, and I think that's really, I think the biggest ones, they really have both.
Because that makes them more human, and also I think
more relatable. I think that's the core, and that's for a person it's easier, because then basically you just need to be yourself, and then you're like unique in itself. There's nobody like you. So that's for I think a brand, it's more difficult, because they have like not a person, or they sometimes they have, but then it's, I think, more difficult to find like what are your values and what's like your mission. I think brand that really does that, maybe as the best in the world, is like, for example, Patagonia, just truly values and driven, mission driven.
Didn't they give like a lot of the revenue of the company away?
The founder gave put all his shares in like a fund. He basically made sure the company would like return all its profits in the next the thing was, he basically gave back the company to the earth. That was like the thing. So all the profits of the company in the next 100 years will go back towards their mission. Yeah. He basically gave away the company, like $2-3 billion.
Yeah, it's a really noble company. A lot of people love Patagonia. Mauricio, what was the most successful strategy that you have created for?
Well, I don't want to be repetitive, but I think it was also related to Tomorrowland Brazil. When we launched the event, we did a research about the perceptions that people had on the festival. And some things that came out really clearly. So people in Brazil thought that Tomorrowland was wonderful on one hand, but also inaccessible.
Why?
On the other hand, because for people in Brazil to travel to Belgium, it's already expensive. Then Tomorrowland is an expensive festival. So to have that full experience was really out of the reach for most people.
Yeah.
And also people thought that Brazil would never be able to host an event like that. So we created this strategy to launch the event 1 week after the 2014 World Cup. Which, you all know it was a disaster for Brazil. 7-1 for Germany.
And all the boys are smiling, all the men are smiling.
So we came with this idea of an event, a free event, to make really this first approach really accessible to everyone.
Was Tomorrowland a free event, or was it a pre-event?
It was a pre-event. It was a viewing event that later became the model for Unite. So we did this first experience in Brazil, which was like a live broadcast of the event in a public park in São Paulo for 10,000 people. In the end, we had 10,000 people inside the fences and also another 20,000 surrounding the place.
It was like a festival,
like
on itself almost.
Yeah, with a 16-meter wide LED screen. Some local DJs playing before, and then the broadcast of the festival. And then, as a surprise, David Guetta got the microphone. He has a really passionate relationship with the Brazilian audience, with Brazil. So it was a no-brainer to choose him. And he got the microphone and out of the blue told people, hey guys, I have a very amazing surprise for you. There's a party happening in São Paulo right now. And then they showed on the LED screens of Belgium, the party happening in São Paulo. And in São Paulo showed Belgium. Cool. So we created this connection. And he said, I want to say to all my fans in Brazil, Tomorrowland is coming to you. And at that moment, it was like really cathartic. You know, people in Brazil they were wild. People in Belgium as well. We had about 5,000 Brazilian people in Belgium as well. Also the online viewers. So in the period of about 20 days that we did a pre-registration, we got around 1 million people pre-registering to go to the first edition of Tomorrowland in Brazil. And that without spending a single dollar on side promotion. Besides this, of course, this cost, to do this event in São Paulo, but we didn't spend on digital media. It was all about that moment, that content, and it was really, really successful.
It's like a dream for an event production company, I think, right?
Yeah.
And do you notice any differences between fan engagement, like in South America and, for instance, in Europe or in the Netherlands, where the dance industry is really?
I think that Brazilians are way more active on social media than Europeans or North Americans. Mm-hmm. So everything catches up a lot more quickly, and but. Also, that makes it hard to stand out consistently, because there's a lot of people, a lot of creative people, putting out quality content about everything, and you don't compete only with other electronic music brands. You compete with everything that's happening. So influencer marketing in Brazil is something that's really relevant for brands in all market segments, and I think that we have the most self-proclaimed influencers in the world. Mm-hmm. I believe, because it also.
Why is that?
I think that Brazil in general has this culture, outgoing culture, like really open, and people they like to be on the screen, to be recognized, and not my case exactly, but that's in general. So I think that especially with the pandemic, people got into this. Okay, I'll create something. I'll create a community surrounding me and what I do, and that stuck.
Cool. Cam, do you use, because you were talking about influencer marketing, do you use influencer marketing for like the campaigns that you're working on for like brands like Atlantic?
Yeah. I mean, it's music and influencer marketing now has been. I actually think it was one of the leading spaces for that, but I don't think people have always been able to understand how it quantifies. But I think that has changed dramatically with TikTok. It's the relationship between, if you just have to look at charts, you look at the top 100 in any country or the Spotify global top 200, and it's like there's probably not many songs on there that don't have a footprint on TikTok in some capacity. And so it's, I think for an industry that's always tried to work out where the best use of, the budgets in music aren't big really, comparatively to like big brands with like advertising campaigns globally. So when you are talking about, I think they used to be bigger, obviously, when physical sales were much bigger. But now in the streaming, I think that's the thing that always confuses people, is music's an industry where there are some of the biggest global stars, but 1 million streams is £4,000. So it's like you quantify that and you realise that that's not that much money really coming back in if you're, if you only get 10 million streams and you spend 50 grand. So it's like, there's kind of like that relationship. But I think TikTok is a space that, I mean, every major label in the UK now will probably have an in-house influencer marketer, and those teams, I know, like those teams are expanding pretty much at every label. Some labels are buying influencers outright, in terms of not buying them, but like they're contracting them for sort of retainers, just to post their songs. You've got like micro influencer campaigns, which is like, there's companies like Zebra in the UK have just opened up, they can run campaigns with micro influencers that get you loads of creations, if that's the metric you're looking for, or you can go with macro creators. You've then still got the kind of, every year there's like a cycle of new influencers coming through Love Island who are hot for a bit. It's like there's so many.
Love Island?
And you can't run that in isolation. So it's like you run that. That's where I think people go wrong, and it's a question that comes to me a lot in music in particular. It's like, oh, we're running influencer marketing, and it's like, okay, but you should be running. It's about points of contact. So you want people hearing that song on TikTok. You want them hearing it on the radio. You want them to maybe see an ad. I wouldn't necessarily nowadays recommend that ads are like the best way of reaching people, but and then you want the artist to be doing things either experientially or online that are interesting people. And when you're combining all of those factors for a long enough, in a condensed period for a long enough amount of time, that's when artists really start to break through, and then people start to engage and start to ask questions of who they are, and you kind of line that all up together basically. So
sounds pretty stressful.
There's a lot,
constantly going on top, being on top, reaching. That's what
there's
also
a lot
there.
going on.
Like you also want to those people that you reached before already and that like you, that you want to keep that connection, and then of course you need to find new people. So you always have that stress of finding new and getting on top, but not re-establishing again that connection that you already had with somebody. That's like paying again an ad to reach that person again. All the things that I hear is like this part of that broken creator economy that we also say, because it's broken. You constantly have to like pay Mark Zuckerberg or Instagram to reach them, and in that way you don't build a community, you don't build a loyal fan base. You're just stressful, like what should be the next content in order to be on top again. Who should I pay, what should I pay?
I think it's interesting. I think it's like, it's also investing in the content for the artists themselves. Actually I think that's a better use of spend. If you have an emerging artist, like spending all those things is well and good if you have the budget to do it, but if you're actually spending 50 grand making sure they have a video a week going out on across all of their platforms that are like, it's funny actually, you said something earlier about the best artists have a personal life, and I actually think it's amazing. It's like, I think so many artists are so different. I look at Kendrick Lamar, I really don't know much about his personality, it comes through his music, but I think there are still artists who their whole appeal is like a visual aesthetic and like and music, you know, and just putting volume out into the marketplace. And then there are artists who you identify with their personality, but it's difficult for them. I don't know. I think it's a difficult space for an artist. You know, if you get into the industry because you love music, and then you have to suddenly think about like your personality being always on social media, if that's what you're being instructed to do by a label. And so it's a difficult space.
Basically, I think the game in the last 3 years has completely changed. So
in what way?
In the way that it's about the content.
Yeah.
It's truly it's really about the content. So the thing is, when also the times where you just as an upcoming artist, you release like, you build it up, go build an album, go pitch it everywhere. Those times are gone. It's like, as an artist, the best thing you can do is post as many times you can, and make this good as possible, but not too good. Like the things which I saw this artist who was on TikTok would just like played like small demos, like doing like multiple a day, and then checking out which ones were picked up by the algorithm, and the ones who were picked out, he would then try to produce those. Like two things, like you don't have to guess which song will be a hit, so it's really based on user feedback, creating a song based on user feedback. And the fun thing is, the people who got served that demo, they are like hooked on the song from the beginning. So you're building up like a community, and you're building up leverage for like a song, for eventually to be like having the best, highest rates of success in being a hit, for example. I think that mindset of just creating, and basically in TikTok, people should create 4 or 5 videos a day, because the ones that are shit won't be picked up, but the ones who are good, they will be picked up. So who cares? But it's all about the content. And the first thing, and that's the thing I fully agree with, it's in the first place, it's about good music in this sense, and it's about having great art, because you can be the nicest person and everything ever, but if the art and the product isn't great, then it won't be picked up. But it's distribution is like key. It's like the one thing.
I totally agree. And one really successful strategy that we adopted recently was to both as event promoters and venue, we started producing content that would be delivered to the artist the morning after the events. So short videos, 15 and 30 seconds, and a photo book from his performance, his or hers. So Ben Bomer, the most watched video on his Instagram is of his performance at ARCA. Frankie Wa used the pictures and video from his performance at ARCA on campaigns, also for other things that he's doing. And also 2 days later, we opened that repository of content also to the fans that were there, and we send it via email to all ticket buyers, so that, you know, instead of trying to focus on our own channels and only putting our content there, we're trying to put our content on as many channels and profiles as possible.
Increases shareability.
Yeah.
But now we're discussing big labels, big brands, big artists. But if you're like an independent starting DJ, for instance, do you stand any chance against like the big creators who are able to had to put in the time to create like 5 videos a day?
Not if you try to compete in their game.
No.
You have to create your own game.
But if you want to be get picked up.
Yeah. There's an artist in the UK who's just signed like I know it was a crazy amount of money. We were talking like multiples. They were talking 6 figs. It came from one TikTok, literally one TikTok that went viral. All the labels hit him up the next week, and then it got signed. It's become this massive deal, and he's now got a long-term artist project. And that came from one video of him in his chair in his living room, like playing this 15 seconds of a song, and he's got a record deal. I actually think the control from the labels is like harder for them now. That like A&R has changed. Like I listen to what everyone's interested in. It's like data, because all of these companies now have like crawlers on TikTok that are like crawling sounds that are viral and then putting them into metrics, and it's like AI, but it's really interesting. It's like,
There's never been a better time as a entrepreneur, but especially artist, as a creator, to have a good idea. So
To
have a great idea.
Yeah.
I think you can produce it all yourself. Everyone has like everything that you need is in your back pocket. It's on your phone. I think that has changed so much. You can create a video. There's never been a time where you can create one video and it gets seen by 100 million people.
Yeah.
Basically for free.
It really shifted from being dependent of the bigger labels, and now the artists are the ones in charge, and also maybe in doing the label contracts.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we always still refer to phones as phones, like they're computers. Like I have whole days where I work purely on my iPhone, you know, and still do pretty much everything that I could do on a computer, and if not more, you know, because I can film things as I go and put that online. It's kind of like, they're really like everyone has that in their pocket, and they can kind of. I think that's a good point. Yeah,
and I think that upcoming artists do have to think very well about like their strategy of building that fan base, because indeed, like if you make yourself, you said like you become independent if you have like one video, but now they are dependent on the algorithm, so to speak, or whatever. So they're building a brand on a third-party platform. So just thinking about like how can I make sure that the next time I have new content, like Mauricio is saying, and sending out through email, that's a direct connection somehow. You have that data somewhere in connected to real way, but it could be other ways that you want to connect, through even DM, through WhatsApp, whatever. There are many ways that people like to interact, but that's a direct connection. So this is a very interesting time, also very challenging, because creating a video that is on top, you're lucky or not. Is it Snapchat that decides with regarding to the algorithm? Is it your budget? Is it the money you spend? Is it your creativity? I don't know. It's a bit of a trick. But as soon as you have that, make sure that you think about like, okay, what to do with the data, for example. How do I make sure that the next time I post something, it's not forgotten or put away?
I wouldn't say it's luck. It's putting in a lot of hard work, and like the people, there might be 1 or 2 or 3 artists who got lucky on their first shot. For example, I really love the story about Lil Nas X, who like put like he understood like this very early. I think he was really one of the first who leveraged the power, in this case of TikTok. Yeah,
he was in the military like a couple of years ago.
He put like his song under like 50 memes a day, like, and just put it out on the platform, and that was the start of like Old Town Road. So it's smart. It's really about grit, and it's really about. I truly believe that like putting out 5 videos a day, it's easily done like right now by a creator, but you can't like do a shitload of production on it. It's like it's truly just on your phone creating, and it can be the most simple things.
I would say build your own networking effect in that. So if you have that first fan, make 2 out of them, and those 2 will be 4, and if they help each other in building that, what we said on the community. If you have a strong community, become ambassadors, it becomes bigger themselves, and maybe through that way you become bigger as an artist also, and you're not reliant on the algorithm or the next big video picked up. Just make sure that you have a strategy in mind on how to engage with your fans and how you keep them close to yourself, and use the different tools that are out there. I mean, I'm not saying social media is bad or whatever. No, it's great. It's a great way to find new artists, to get your word out there.
Still needed.
But you constantly have to think like, how will I engage with them after that, and on a daily basis?
I'd recommend like any young art. Like there's a lot of hype about Fred again at the moment. I don't know if everyone knows him. Obviously, you can't escape it on Twitter, TikTok once you've interacted with one video. But I recommend any young artist to go back 2 years or like a year and a half on his Instagram, because I've been following him from the start, because I know, like, I just heard about it. And if you just go back, everything that he's now being shouted about, he was just persistently putting videos and playing into the algorithm. The algorithm favors faces, right? He was putting selfie videos from this perspective of him putting his music out. He's put 3 albums worth of music out, like, well, soon to be 3 albums worth of music out with an always on release strategy. He's had videos of him with things. He's been engaging with his community by asking them what songs should be on albums that I reckon they may be on the albums already. I don't know, you know, but it's like still, it's engaging the audience. And I think that like, just go back on him and like watch that. If that's, obviously don't copy, but like you can take hints about like what he did, I think.
Yeah.
It took him a decade to become an overnight success.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a nice. That's a nice quote.
Yeah.
We have to wrap it up because our time is up. But I have two quick more questions. Damian, I was wondering, is Fangage some kind of competitor with OnlyFans? Because OnlyFans is used for sexual content, but also for musicians or like pro gym. How do you say gym bros? Gymnastic? No, not gymnastic. Pro sports. How do you say people who are in the gym a lot?
Fitness
Gym
influencers.
fitness
community.
influencers. Fitness community. Yeah.
Not much more or less than a social media platform, also like Instagram or Facebook.
What's
or
the
whatsoever.
difference?
The difference is that also with OnlyFans, you build your brand on a third-party platform. The data is of OnlyFans. I think I remember a very good example of Levi van Willigen. He was an adult entertainer. And one day or the other, he was thrown out of OnlyFans, and they blocked him. Well, I don't know exactly what the reason was, but he just lost all of his income and everything. And that will never happen with Fangage. You are the owner of data. It's in a separate database. It's yours. You have access to it. You can even take that fan base with you and bring it somewhere else if you want to, because the fan gave the data to you as a creator. They don't give it to us. We safekeep it, but they give it to the creator. It's the ownership of the creator, and that's the important part of it. And that's that you don't have with the other platforms.
Sure.
And then you can engage truly with them because you know exactly who that person is. You know their name. You can build a richer fan profile about connecting, follow to unlock things like Spotify, and you really become knowing that fan.
Yeah.
You don't have that on the other platforms, and that's the difference. So. No.
And is it also that an artist has to pay for the data that they're getting from the fans instead of the fans paying to have access to the artist?
No, they don't have to pay for that data in the sense that they don't have to. How do you mean? Do you have to pay for the data?
At OnlyFans, you have to share a little bit of your revenue with OnlyFans as an artist.
If you look at the revenue model, we're looking eventually at if the artist can make money for themselves, we'll go into a rev share together with that creator, which will still be lower than the percentages that you see on the common platforms right now. But if the creator grows, then we grow. So it's also our interest in having, from a financial perspective, to help a creator to engage with their fans and to monetize on them eventually, not only for themselves. In the end, everyone needs a bit of income to support themselves, and we take a rev share of that to make sure that we also get the company running.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything anybody wants to share that we did not discuss yet? Are we cool?
Yeah, we're good for now. Yeah.
Okay.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for participating in this talk. Of course, we have a small audience, so I wanted to ask if there are any questions from the audience for the people on the couch, on the podium. Yeah, Oscar. Oscar, our favorite fan. Yes.
Yeah, so I think one thing that wasn't discussed, which I'm really curious about, is about interconnecting communities. So I think that the David Guetta part, that's really interesting, because in the event industry, like most of the event brands are focused on their own community. Well, it's about interconnecting the communities, because you book artists based on their fan base, but they're not working like directly with the artists to promote these events, like not specifically. Some of the promoters do it, but you don't see it a lot. So I wanted to know about your experience or your ideas on interconnecting communities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's fundamental, you know, to be like net weavers, you know, in this sense. With David Guetta, we had a very clear opportunity to do that, because we had been working with him for years, you know, doing his tours in Brazil, and we knew about the relationship he had with the country, with the fans. But in the end, even now, for us in a broader sense, is about building those connections between one event and another. Trying to speak to people about the subjects of common interest. More than talking only about ourselves, about what we're doing, what excites us. What makes us wake up in the morning, get out of bed, what makes us feel passion, and keep the conversation interesting, more than only like pushing what we want to promote.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting, also for the future of, and again for the events, like how to sell your tickets. It becomes harder and harder, also because of the situation. So you really need those other communities as well. Instead of only focusing on your own community, like the interconnection is really important. Then find that common thing that interests everyone. That will build the connection. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Thanks.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful.